All right, everyone, thank you for joining. Welcome to the top 5 ways to automate e-commerce for high volume sellers. Before we get into the top 5 ways, we're going to start with a brief introduction. I'm going to introduce myself. My name is Decker. I'm a senior manager here at Webgility, and I'll be introducing you to our automation expert today, Parag. Parag is the founder and CEO of Webgility, an e-commerce automation company based in San Francisco with offices in Phoenix and in India. He has 18 years experience in e-commerce. He's helped over 10,000 businesses with automation, and he previously ran Amazon's web store. Please welcome Parag.
Thanks a lot, Decker, and thank you, everyone. And good morning or good afternoon to you if you're out on the East Coast. Thanks so much for taking the time out of your busy e-commerce day to spend a little bit of time with myself talking automation. And I had a chance briefly before the webinar started to look at some of the attendee lists, and it's great to see that we have a very broad audience in attendance today, some folks that are doing from hundreds of orders a month to tens of thousands of orders a month across multiple channels. So it's a pleasure to be here, and the slide you see in front of you is talking about the commerce of the past. And what I love to do when I talk about automation, something that I'm really, really passionate about, is first set the stage of how we got here. And if you consider where commerce was historically, there was a time when you could walk to your neighborhood store and buy the product of your choice just by walking to the shelf. You'd have a friendly conversation with the person that was behind the cash register, and usually you had to dig into your pockets to pull out some change. And that whole experience, was very, very personal. That experience required a very different set of tools and skills. And if you consider where we were to now the commerce of the present, we've come a long way. Today, the very definition of commerce has evolved. You no longer walk into a store. You're essentially faced with an endless aisle online, and customers have just a plethora of choice. You can, at the click of a button while sitting on your couch, place an order for your favorite product and have it delivered to your doorstep first thing in the morning. Or in fact, with many of the now services, you're able to get them in a matter of hours at your doorstep. So the very nature of commerce has changed very dramatically over the last decade. And what that means for consumers is obviously a tremendous amount of choice, incredible availability and selection, and really competitive prices. But what that sort of a economy and the e-commerce landscape has done for businesses like yours and everyone that's listening is it's put a tremendous amount of pressure on how you operate your business, because doing things the old way no longer scales. You cannot deliver the type of quality experience and satisfy customers if your processes and your systems don't evolve to meet the customer's needs. So today's webinar is really going to be focused on how do you survive, how do you compete in the commerce of the present, and also thinking ahead about the commerce of the future. No doubt that this trend of automation and the future, if you look ahead, is all about borderless, seamless, apparently voice-driven, very personalized, machine-driven, artificially intelligent, and it absolutely involves automation. And there's, in fact, the very notion of e-commerce no longer will exist. It's all commerce. It's all international. And it's a very, very personalized experience. Consumers are going to expect the best rated items at the best price, always in stock, shipped to them immediately from anywhere in the world, delivered on time, easy to return, all from any interface, whether it's a laptop or a mobile phone. And as business owners, as operations executives in your companies, you're going to be expected to keep up and provide not only an incredible experience for your customers, but also make sure that your business continues to grow. And so today's webinar and our real topic about automation really comes down to the seminal question, which is, how do retailers and brands like yours grow and compete with large enterprises? Over these last 18 or so years that I've been in the e-commerce space, I've worked with so many companies and I've seen the evolution of businesses going from a handful of manual processes and people in their teams to now building multi-warehouse, multi-dropship location and cross-border companies. And throughout this journey, I've found a few key areas that are absolutely critical to automate and get done right. And we'll cover that over the next 30 to 40 minutes in the webinar today. For those of you that are tempted to take some notes, please feel free to. We do have a questions panel on the right side of the webinar. If you'd like to ask a question, please fill those out and we'll try to get to them throughout the course of the webinar. And we also have a little bit of time left at the end to answer any questions. Also, in terms of all of you that are interested in recording, we are going to send out a recording of this webinar following the completion sometime today or tomorrow. So we'll get right to it. In terms of the real e-commerce automation answer that you're all here looking for, where do we begin? So the first place we decided to start was around inventory. So inventory, I'm sure, is a major pain point for all of you, but I hope you all are aware, but poor inventory tracking really kills credibility. And I'm just fascinated that so many customers we come across don't have the most optimal inventory system, and in fact are still, almost 40% or more businesses are still using manual processes or disintegrated systems in order to track their inventory. And regardless of how you manage your inventory, recognize that inventory management and getting the right systems is a question of trust and credibility for your customers. And you'll see from some of the messages on your screen, inventory management plagues companies of no matter what size. So all the way from, the small business to the largest of Nordstroms. I'll share a personal story. A couple of years back when Jet did the acquisition, Walmart was acquiring Jet. I did a little experiment and I placed an order for a headset on the Walmart website, and I placed another order for a headset on Amazon site as well. It's just fascinating. Even at that scale, you'd be surprised to know. I actually saw the earnings. Walmart's doing incredibly well now, but a couple of years ago, as they were really digging into the e-commerce space, even the likes of Walmart struggled to provide on-time delivery for a simple handset. In fact, that headset I received about 14 days after I placed the order. And of course, Amazon one arrived second day as was promised. So, even no matter what size of company you are, having the right inventory levels, knowing what's in stock is absolutely key. And this problem gets even more complicated as you add more channels. So if you're a multi-channel seller, which I imagine most of you on the phone on the line are, keeping track of inventory as you sell in every one of your channels is even more painful, because as you look at those systems, the velocity of transactions that are happening in different channels will vary. So how do we really do more accurate inventory tracking? And how do we make sure that all of our channels are in sync? Well, it really comes down to some form of automation. And if you're a seller, that is using a third-party logistics provider like, say, FBA, or you're using a trading partner, and you're selling your supplier to companies like Lowe's, or you're selling on Target, that kind of transaction velocity can create almost another layer of complexity. And boy, you add international to the equation, and now you've got a very different set of challenges that you need to think about. So inventory automation is for me the first place that you want to look at. And how do we go about automating inventory? Well, here are some pointers for all of you. And many of you that have more mature businesses, you probably have some systems already in place, but you'll be really surprised to know how many customers we come across that are still struggling to have a single system of record. Most of our customers tend to rely on either QuickBooks or NetSuite for all of their not only accounting, but also inventory needs. QuickBooks has an advanced inventory module that provides tremendous capabilities on managing across multiple warehouses and being able to also track complex products like assemblies and kits. Or you can upgrade and move towards a larger, more comprehensive system like a NetSuite. We also have a lot of customers that use point solutions for inventory, and those can work really well. And depending on your inventory catalog size and complexity, an inventory software might be the best way to go. But once you have your individual system of record, integration is the absolute key. So making sure that the system you have in place is able to talk to each other is going to be an important element of the automation process. And once you have your inventory systems connected, not only will you have visibility into which items you're selling, but you're going to be able to keep all of your workflows intact. So as soon as you receive orders from a particular sales channel, you can automatically keep the inventory levels up to date in all of your other channels. And keeping inventory in sync as you sell is absolutely essential to never overselling. And a good example of some of this success comes from one of our customers, like Clubride Apparel, and certainly a shameless plug, but we see these stories from our customer base all the time. Once they are able to put a good system in place, they're able to take care of their inventory woes with just no human interaction, and everything is in sync and automated with at the click of a button. The second part that is really critical to automation, and an area which obviously is dear to everyone that's selling online, is the order processing side of the house. And it's needless to say, as I mentioned, we're in a time and space when customers expect their orders to be processed instantly. We had a customer here in Menlo Park who had actually a basement warehouse, and they would take orders only until 1 p.m. on the day because they did not have the staffing to be able to ship any order that came after 1 p.m. Before the end of the day. So they couldn't fulfill their commitment to same day or next day shipping and meet their cutoff deadlines because order processing just took so much time. And in order to kind of really get away from that, you have to figure out what are the different channels that you're selling on and the different shipping methods you've made available on those channels. What are the most commonly requested shipping criteria? You've got to take all of your manual order processing steps and figure out who your staff members are and who's creating bottlenecks. And if you have complicated order statuses and workflows are not well documented, you're really going to create even more chaos. And the bigger your team, the more order volume you have, it becomes harder and harder to keep everyone on the same page. Add to that, when you're in a holiday crunch or have a lot of volume due to a promotion, returns and refunds can just create so much havoc for your workflow complexity. So it's really important that you really think about what are the order processing bottlenecks. And the way I like to equate this is, how many minutes does it take for you from getting an order online to getting it packed and ready to go out the door? And if you start to do the math, that really adds up, and it can be a very significant cost for you and your company. And it could be the difference between making money or not on a given order. So how do you take care of your order processing? From my standpoint, collaboration and visibility into your order workflow is the key. So the place to begin is to start with documentation. And I know what you're probably thinking. You've got probably no time in the day to sit down and create a document. But I assure you, getting all of your staff and getting your systems documented, it will be time very well spent, because it'll enable you to identify all the bottlenecks, the manual steps that you have in your workflows. And if you can explore what are the different steps, it'll really help you in fine-tuning and identifying the one integrated software that'll work for all of your channels. And make sure you're not taking shortcuts. You want to keep all of your processes in sync, because communication with your customers is key. If you're not updating your order statuses correctly, your internal staff doesn't know what the state of an order is, it can create a lot of chaos and confusion. So training your team is absolutely important, and using order notes to communicate effectively. And last but not least, this collaboration between your team and the visibility you can create with your order workflow would be ineffective if you weren't setting the right expectations for your customers up front. I often find that shipping, providing free shipping is probably a really good lure for prospects who are looking to buy some product. And free shipping can be very, very lucrative and can dramatically improve your conversion rates. But it's important to set the expectation up front of when you're shipping free, how long is it going to take for the item to actually arrive? Because oftentimes customers have expectations that free shipping implies second-day shipping or free next-day shipping, as Amazon has set the bar pretty high for that. But set the right expectations of your order processing and keep your customers informed. And because of this sort of a workflow and these recommendations, I've worked with, with WebGility, we've worked with so many different customers. You look at Honeybee Gardens, which used to have about a 5-minute process, that they've taken it down to a matter of seconds. Another customer in legacy food storage took them hours to process, given the size of their product base. And another customer, which is Silvermine Gifts, was able to reduce their order processing time by 75%. So just incredible value you can drive, and cost savings and operational efficiency with order automation.
All right, we're just going to stop here for a second, do a quick poll of the audience.
Great.
All right, what is the #1 automation challenge you were hoping to overcome?
So yeah, use the click through on the buttons on your screen. There's about 5 options, it looks like, and we'd love for you to take 10 seconds and just put in your vote, so we know exactly what pain points you're having, and we'll make sure to not only tailor the rest of this conversation, but it'll give us a lot of input in terms of how we do the next series of webinars as we focus on automation in the future. Looks like the votes are coming in, just a handful more people we're waiting on to fill out the information. The options we have are overselling, which is obviously related to not having your inventory processes straight. We have slow shipping processes, accounting and financials, of course, which is near and dear to me, and WebGility. Worries or automation challenges you might have around returns and cancellations. And last but not least, sales tax compliance. The poll is about a minute in, and we're going to close it here in the next 5 seconds, and we'll share the responses back with you as well here momentarily. All right, the results are in, and Decker looks like accounting and financials seems to be standing out here. And I'm glad we are talking next about the shipping process. And absolutely, we have some thoughts to share around tax compliance as well. So thank you, everyone, for participating. And we'll continue on to the next item number 3. And we'll go ahead and talk about automation number 3, which is specifically around shipping. So as you know, customers expect their shipments to be delivered yesterday. And as I was mentioning previously, Amazon has set the bar really, really high. And frankly, this shipping software that you use, the shipping carrier that you use, given the slim margins that exist in e-commerce, could mean the difference between a profitable order or a loss-making one. And not only does shipping dictate a lot of your margin, but it also puts your brand and credibility at stake. If you don't ship orders out on time, or the branding's not there, or you don't communicate effectively the delivery times, that could really be damaging, especially in marketplaces where the customer has easy access to just a simple window where they can type in a negative review. When I think about shipping, not only is cost and automation around selecting the carrier a challenge, but the picking and packing workflow is often overlooked. It's, I think, one of the major bottlenecks in the fulfillment process. We often ignore the amount of time it takes to go out into the floor, pick up an item, put it into a bin, carry it out, and then put it into a box. That workflow could take time, and really making sure that you have a good pick pack system, a picking list that you can go out into the floor are going to be important. A lot of folks are, of course, these days solving for some of their shipping challenges by using a third-party logistics provider or using drop shipping to get an extended catalog. And with FBA, as many of you might know, FBA kind of creates its own set of workflow challenges, because you're going to be paying stocking fees and storage fees with FBA, and you want to make sure you're not sending them too much product and ending up with a lot of storage fees. And last but not least, as I mentioned in the order processing piece, as the order is completed and you're in the shipping process, getting that tracking information and customers knowing exactly what's going on is important. So shipping is a pretty vast topic, of course, and what I'd like to talk about just is a handful of things that I would recommend if you are in, especially as a high volume shipper. It's really important to compare shipping rates. The shipping space is becoming incredibly competitive. Amazon also provides its own shipping label capability. FedEx, UPS, USPS, of course, are vying for your wallet share. So it's important you compare and get the best rates, and also speak to your software vendor or to your carrier and make sure you're negotiating the best commercial pricing depending on your volume. The second one kind of goes without saying, but once you've selected the right carrier, make sure you have a shipping software in place, and you're using kind of predefined rule sets in the software. From my standpoint, it makes no sense when I see so much manual intervention in the shipping workflow. You can easily set rules of how you'd like to do shipping, which carrier to select based on which location. Automation can be done with an incredible amount of ease. I also suggest, of course, it's the most simple thing to do, but most applications now include shipping validation. You'd be surprised how many of our customers come in complaining that they shipped orders with other software and they didn't actually do validation correctly, so it ended up being sent to the wrong address. Simple human error can occur, not just by your staff, but even by your customers when they're typing in their address. So make sure you're doing address validation. and certainly find a software that can print your labels in bulk. And again, I keep talking about our customer, but make sure you're keeping your customers informed. And the key to shipping, and especially as you're doing 3PL or drop shippers or you're doing international, is making sure that you keep everything in sync. So whether you're using FBA, you use ShipStation, have a third-party logistics provider, your accounting system, your carrier, keep all of your systems in sync, from knowing what the state of the order is, to knowing what the inventory is that needs to be replenished, to knowing what the tracking number is. And also, let's not forget the shipping cost. That's a piece of the puzzle which you should keep track of, especially in your accounting system, so you know where your costs are and what orders are really generating profitability for you. A lot of you talked in the poll about taxes, and that's our automation recommendation number 4. It's on tax automation. And tax automation was certainly a hot topic even a few years ago, but it's picked up an incredible amount of momentum recently with what many of you might have heard of as the Wayfair versus South Dakota, where the state won. And the state essentially won with in the case where they claimed that previously taxes were the responsibility only if you had a physical presence in a particular state. But the case overturned that requirement, and now states can charge sales tax even if you have an economic nexus in that state. And the laws are still being defined. It hasn't fully rolled out yet, but there are rules around taxation which could implicate your business for liability for sales taxes. It's really important that you understand what those laws are and how they affect you. And to be clear, this may seem like a fairly straightforward challenge, but the more states where you're doing a higher volume or revenue of transactions are impacted. I've pasted for your viewing just a slide from Avalara's blog, who's one of our partners. They have a simple chart that shows you all the different states where you could have implications for remote taxation or economic nexus, and it's important you get that right. And to get it right, my suggestion is to make sure you have a system in place, whether it's Avalara, whether it's TaxJar, whether it's TaxFi. There's a number of great providers out there, but taxes can be charged and calculated easily at a state or jurisdiction level for every order from your shopping cart or your sales channel, or that can be integrated into your order management system. And you want to improve your tax compliance and reporting across all the channel. Work with your tax advisor. Consider automating with software applications like Avalara or TaxJar, and those will be great benefits for your business, because now you're not going to be worrying about compliance, and you can rely on kind of the expertise of a number of those providers to do not only the accurate tax calculation, but also use the vendors to do the tax reporting and filing for you. So last but not least, and our automation number 5 is financials. It shouldn't be a surprise, but the more systems that your business is running, the more complex your financial visibility can be, and your data is scattered across all of these systems. So starting off, we talk to a lot of customers that say, well, my QuickBooks is really just for my bookkeeper at the end of the month. And I'm usually just baffled by that statement, because QuickBooks is a powerhouse. NetSuite is a powerhouse of intelligence to give you visibility into the financial data that's in all of your systems. So consider your sales channel like a Magento. You've got all of your revenue and customer data there. Consider a marketplace like Amazon or Walmart. You're not only have revenue information, but you also have a number of fees that you need to be keeping track of. Your payment provider has your payment fees. Your shipping provider has all of your shipping costs. And being able to get all of that financial data that's scattered across these systems manually into your accounting is it just kind of doesn't make sense to me. So I think automation of your financial data is imperative for any company that's especially if you're doing anywhere over 100 or 200 orders a month, or if you have more than one sales channel. It can create a lot of costly accounting mistakes, and they could be hefty penalties if you're not reporting your revenue correctly, if you've missed your transactions, or you're miscalculating your expenses and your profitability. Even things like cost allocation at an inventory level. You know, if you're buying product over the course of the year and you have different cost structures associated with different purchases, it's important to get that right, because that's going to give you a better picture of your accounting. And when it comes to selling on Amazon, I imagine every one of our sellers, every one of the attendees is selling on Amazon. When it comes to Amazon, you know, you're surrounded by so many competitors. There's over 2 million sellers. Amazon fees can be a third of your price. They really hurt your margins. It's very hard to stand out. And financially, you have such poor visibility because you only get paid every 14 days when an Amazon settlement happens. So if you're a high volume Amazon seller and you're not tracking your transaction level accounting, your financial visibility is going to be very, very challenging. And just to give you all an idea of the financial implications of being a seller on the Amazon platform, you've basically got subscription fees, per item fees, closing fees. You have a fee schedule depending on how many channels you might have. FBA has a plethora of fees that just add up. And in order to really get visibility, you have to have automation in place. And as an Amazon seller and as a multi-channel seller, again, a simple way to automate is to make sure all of your channels are connected seamlessly with your accounting system. And obviously that's the business that Webgility is in. We connect all of your sales channels, and we automatically sync all of your transactions across all of the different channels, including not only the revenue, but also the expenses and fees that you have incurred from your marketplace. At the click of a button, you want to reconcile all of your Amazon settlements. We work closely, of course, with a lot of QuickBooks and accountants and advisors and NetSuite consultants. And so depending on your needs, you can work with us to not only automate, but also streamline pretty much the entire workflow across your channels and your accounting. And ultimately, the key to doing all of this is not just the automation of your bookkeeping workflow, but it is also to get much more visibility into your profit margins. And I like to think of automation Nirvana as the time when you can get profitability visibility at an order level. So if you could track and connect all of your systems accurately, you're going to be able to look at all the revenue that's flowing in, deduct your taxes collected, be able to look at all the discounts provided, figure out what your net order totals are, and come up with the actual gross order profitability. And in fact, if you've connected your fees and commissions to the system, you should be able to generate what is your net profitability on a particular item. So it's really powerful and visibility that you can get if you have the right connectivity and have the right system in place. So one of the key benefits that some of our customers see because of automation is not just visibility, but that visibility into their financials, their inventory, and their shipping is able to take them from slower growth to a much higher growth business, as is the case with one of our customers, Dan. He's a store out of, actually, it's near Sacramento, company called Bases Loaded. They're a baseball and sports store. and they've tripled their revenue and are doing tens of thousands of online orders, and were named one of the fastest growing companies on the Inc. 5000 list because of the automation they were able to put in place. So automation can be not only an incredible time saver, but it often is the unspoken hero of what drives true business growth. To recap the 5 areas we covered today for automation, it's taking a stock of your inventory, making sure you have a simplified inventory system. You also want to look at your order processing workflow. You want to look at your shipping and figure out how can you take your complex tax logic and be able to simplify the workflow that you have in your tax reporting and calculation. And last but not least, find a way to automate your financials so that you know exactly the items you're selling and what kind of profitability you have. So that covers all of the key topics of our presentation. We have about 7 minutes or so. We have a number of questions that have come in from the audience, but please feel free to add any more questions you have. Look at the panel on the right side of your screen. There's a question box there, and you can fill it out, and we'll try to get to it live here. And if we don't have the time, we'll send you a response at the end of the presentation. We have one question here that's come in from Kelly, and Kelly asks, what about the integration to Avalara, and how do we do tax calculation with Avalara? A good question, Kelly. So the way that the sales tax calculation works, sales tax is typically calculated at the time the order is placed in the online channel. So the online channel at the time of checkout is the one that needs to calculate the appropriate sales tax based on the location that you are shipping to. Once the sales tax is accurately calculated at the order entry point, with our software, you're able to take that sales tax information and accurately validate it with our software against the Avalara, so you can connect your Avalara account, look at the tax and how it's calculated.
We have a few more questions coming in. Question from Robert: why should we use ShipStation instead of the built-in WebGility shipping module?
Sure. Yeah, that's a great question. So wrapping up real quick on the Avalara piece, we do the validation of the taxes against Avalara, and we also help you record that tax correctly into QuickBooks. In terms of shipping, absolutely, we as a company provide a very comprehensive and automated shipping application. We are certified across all the different carriers. I brought up ShipStation and Shipping Easy. They're partners of ours. One of the things I believe, certainly these webinars are meant to tell you about our business, but we often encounter a lot of customers that look for a variety of alternatives, or they may already be ShipStation customers, and we're happy to work with them and help them too. So Robert, if you're considering shipping, absolutely welcome to use WebGility's shipping solution. And if there's benefits you see of sticking around with ShipStation, they're a partner of ours, and you're welcome to use them as well. And we work very well with ShipStation. We're able to bring in all the shipping costs from ShipStation.
We have a question from Varun. How does WebGility offer full accounting reconciliation / mapping with Amazon settlement? Can we track payment received at order level from Amazon through WebGility to QuickBooks Enterprise?
The answer is yes, yes, and yes. We provide probably the most comprehensive accounting automation for Amazon. We have a very, very comprehensive system that can track all of your Amazon sales, refunds, and fees at a transaction level if you want to do inventory level accounting. Or we also can import your bi-weekly settlement reports and create journal entries for each of the transactions. So you have a dollar level tracking of all of your expenses and revenue and fees that you receive from Amazon, to the point where you can match it directly with the deposit you received from your Amazon store. We have a question from Chris on how do you solve some of these pain points and what is the cost? Well, I'm happy to say our product and our pricing is very transparent. Webgility.com/pricing. We have our price points on our website. We also have free chat intercom interface on our site. So if you'd like to chat with one of our e-commerce advisors, they're available, or feel free to pick up the phone. And our number I'll be sharing on the screen here shortly. We have a question from Robert again of what are some of the benefits of using Webgility instead of ShipStation? Well, for me, it really comes down to an integrated order flow. So if you like to keep both your order fulfillment, your e-commerce, your financials, your inventory and operational staff all in one software, we provide that comprehensive solution. So it's a multi-user system that can be hosted on your own network or with a partner of ours like Right Networks or InSync or Skyline. We work with a number of providers to get that piece automated. We are a certified vendor with all the carriers. If you want to consolidate multiple systems and use one solution for your shipping, you might consider Webgility as that one solution. We have only a couple of minutes left, and I believe we've addressed a number of questions, but we've got a few more coming in. Why don't we integrate with Microsoft Dynamics from FW Pierce? We don't yet. We certainly have received a handful of requests for it, but it is something that we're considering on our roadmap. So thank you for the shout out for Dynamics, and we'll be taking a look at that. We did recently refresh our integration into NetSuite. So for those of you that are on QuickBooks or maybe considering a bigger kind of ERP implementation, NetSuite is definitely something that we can help with. I have another question from Ben Martin on the topic of biweekly settlement reports. How, if at all, does Webgility handle the reserve unavailable balance from Amazon's payment summary? So the way that we handle some of these balances is we do journal level entries. So in your settlement report, you're going to have a starting balance and an ending balance. And once you start the reconciliation process with our onboarding team and you get it set up, by tracking all of your fees at a ledger level, we're able to actually keep a running balance of your Amazon reserve in a separate clearing account. So we're able to automate that piece of it. And we not only provide, obviously, software automation, but we also work with a number of pro advisors who are Amazon and e-commerce specialists, and they can definitely help you with even a monthly advisory call to help you kind of make sure everything is reconciled correctly. So we've come up on time. We have a couple more questions here, and we'll be sure to reach out to Kevin and Chris and Ben with a few of the questions you have. Again, thank you all for taking the time out of your busy schedules to attend today's webinar. You can talk automation with our team. The number and email is on your screen. We will send out a recording of this webinar later today or tomorrow. And again, thanks for taking the time. We'll be talking more automation as we do more of these webinars. Oh, and a shout out to anyone of you that might be coming to the Prosper Show next month. We're going to be there. It's in Vegas, should be fun. We have a booth and a bunch of folks from our team will be there. So look forward to seeing you there and look forward to having you in the next series of our webinars. Thank you so much.